This is the 11th video in the beginning programming series about Octagon. And in this video we're going to learn about user task return values. For more information visit jb.works and at the search prompt enter the TMT code at the bottom of the screen. So first of all, what are return values in a task? So in all the examples that we've run so far to do with tasks, particularly the user tasks, we basically run the task, it does something, we might pass it some arguments, but that's about it. So return values are the values that are returned by a task when it's called. And so we pass some arguments, which is some information that the task needs to do its job. It does some work, and then it returns a result. And that result is the return value. So if we have a look at a simple getAge example, we are declaring a task called getAge. Its input arguments are the year that someone was born, and it's an integer, the current year, which is also an integer, and then we come up against this set of characters here, which is a minus sign and a greater than sign. And together they're called a pusher in Octagon. And what that's saying is I'm going to take these, do some work, I'm going to push the result into a variable called age, which is also an integer. So if we go inside the task, it does a subtraction, so it subtracts the year they were born from the current year, and it, again, the pusher again, it's pushing that result into a variable called age. And so if we go down to the part of the program where this task is called, we're passing it the year that they were born, which was 1972, and the current year, which is 2023. We are then doing the task, so we're doing this calculation, and we're pushing that value into a new variable called person's age. So we're basically coming down here, doing all this work, and then the result of that work is pushed into a new variable called person's age, and then we print it. So that's roughly, well, not roughly, but is actually how return values and tasks work. Okay, so I'm in the dashboard on the prog page, and I've got an example program here. If you want to get this code, just enter this TMT code right there at the search prompt in either the guide or the progref tabs, and you can get it from there. But basically what we've got is a program that's going to calculate someone's age. So if I run it, the value is going to be 72 for the year they were born, and 2023 for the current year. So if I run this program, it's basically this age calculator, and it says the age is 51, and then it says goodbye. So if we look at the code, first thing we do is we create a variable called person's age, which is where the age that we calculate is going to go into. So the return value from the getAge task is going to go into that variable. And then we call the getAge task. And what that's doing is it's taking the person's date of birth or year of birth as one input argument and the current year as the second input argument. Then we have the pusher, and it's called a pusher because it's an arrow that's basically indicating going from left to right. And that's what we're doing. So we're taking this task, getting some information, and then pushing the result into a variable called person's age. So if we come down to the getAge task itself, the input variables are, first of all, the born year, which is the year that they were born, and it's an integer. And then the second input variable is current year, which is the current year, and that's also an integer. And likewise, we have the pusher, and so what that's doing is it's saying we're going to go from left to right, and so the result is going to be in a variable called age, and that's also an integer. Then we come along and we do the calculation. The result is stored in age. And then when we exit this task and come back up here, the result that we got in age is then pushed into the variable called person's age. And then finally we print it, and that's what you're seeing here, age 51. And because we only want to do this once, I've put an exit prog command here, which basically says, we're done, we want to quit, we don't want to keep on looping around, and we just go straight to the prog stop task, which says goodbye. So this is a program that illustrates getting a return value from a user task. So now we're back in the program, and let's say that we wanted to add a second return argument to our getAge task. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new return value called randAge, and we're going to make it an integer, so give it a value of 0. And what that's going to do is that's just going to end up being a random number. So down here we will come down and say rand, which will generate a random number between 1 and 200. And again, you see the pusher, so we're going to push that value into our new randAge variable there. So the return values are now 2. First one is the age, the second one will be the random age. So up here, what we now need to do is create a new variable called your randAge, and that's going to be an integer. So this will hold the result. So we're going to take that and we are going to add it to the call to getAge. And so what's going to happen is it will do what it did before, calculate it, it will return the person's age, but then it's going to return a silly random number between 1 and 200 years. And so what we want to do is say your randAge is, or no, say your age, no, your age really is, and then your random age. So this program will then calculate the actual age and then tell them that their age is actually something else. So let's run it. And there we go. So it says, okay, that's not bad. My age is 51 and I'm actually 47. I'll take that any day. If I run it again, oh, still good. Okay, so here, so your age is 51, but your age is really 169, which is probably not so good. So essentially what we've done is we've taken the getAge task and we have added a second return value called randAge. And that means that we've done 2 jobs inside this task instead of just 1, and we've returned the results from both of those jobs. And those results are the return values that we get up here. So to summarize, a task's return value is its ability to return a value once it's done some work. So in our example here, the work that it did was first of all calculate someone's age, and then the second bit of work that it did was to come up with a silly age, which was basically a random number between 1 and 200. When you declare return values in a task, you have to add the pusher first, and then followed by the variables that you want it to return. That's how it will return the values. And that's essentially the same thing we did for declaring the arguments for a task, or the input arguments. And then finally, to get the values that the task returns, you add a pusher after you've got the input variables there, and then you add new variables that will hold these values from the task. And we've declared those new variables up here. So you can try modifying this program, get it to say different things, and have some fun. For more information, visit jb.works.